Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right. So I'm not even sure who's involved in this back and forth of bannering. I don't care. I heard so many things about this. It's not even funny. People are trying to figure out whether the Iraqi Dinar is floating, pegged. What are these terms? What does it mean? I'll get into that. I've done so many videos about this, and still people out there misleading others is what I'm guessing. So we'll get into that here in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsors. Before we get started, if you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, or any other precious metals for that matter, head on over to our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. When you purchase over there at Money Metals Exchange, you will now be automatically entered into a chance to get free giveaways. This month, you'll be automatically registered to be one of 3 people who will receive 10 ounces. That's 10 silver eagles each. So head on over to Money Metals, make your purchase, and automatically enter to win. For those of you who are unaware, I do have my own webpage. I can be found at Pimpy's News Network. Over here, I do post videos that I can't post on YouTube without getting in trouble. I also have my own Facebook group called Pimpy's Investment Chat. Over here, we do talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. So come on over here and join us. It's free to do so. I can also be found over here on Twitter, MeWe, YouTube, Odyssey, and now I'm on Rumble. For whatever reasons, my videos are not showing up on my channel yet, but I can be found just by going to the search button and typing in Pimpy's Investment Chat. And my videos will pop up for you to check out. If I get kicked off YouTube or I get suspended on YouTube, you can find me on any other one of these social media platforms. Again, a reminder, 3 people have already won 10 ounces each. Their names were announced. In case you missed it, I'll show you here in just a second once again. But if you want an opportunity to win 10 free ounces of silver, all you got to do is go down below, follow the link to Money Metals, make a purchase, and you're automatically entered to win 10 free ounces. So these are the names of last month's winners. Obviously, we don't want to put your full name there because I don't know if you want us to let the whole world know. Kelly S. from Virginia, Jeffrey F. from Texas, and Billy M. from Oklahoma. Check your email. You should be getting an email from Money Metals letting you know that you won. If you don't see it in your inbox, then make sure you're looking to spam so you don't miss out, okay? Okay, so apparently there's some bickering back and forth. I don't care to know. Somebody just said, look, people were fighting on whether something's afloat or not. I said, I don't want to hear about it. And they're like, come on, man, we're confused out here. I said, fine, I'll go ahead and comment on it. I made videos explaining what the differences are, but I'll go ahead and show you once again so that you know. Because you got a lot of people trying to claim that there's an in-country rate and out-of-country rate. Something happened that's pegged over here, something floating over there. God knows what's happening to the currency over there. All of it is just bullshit, man. You got to just use your head just a little bit. There's not going to be one that's for out of country and one that's for in country. The only time you're going to see 2 exchange rates or them talk about 2 exchange rates are the parallel exchange rates. And all that is the difference between what the government says the exchange rate is. And Iraq Stock Exchange does keep track of the parallel. They call it a parallel, but it's actually a black market rate is what it is. It's called parallel rate. So it's what people are willing to give you on the streets versus what the officials are willing to give you in the bank. Okay, we'll talk about that again here in just a moment. But anyways, Ms. Blassart, the current government is making efforts and reforms, especially in the energy file. Yeah, I bet they are. So Ms. Blassart had her normal meeting with the United Nations, giving her report card on Iraq and what's going on. She did say that the Iraqi government is focusing on consolidating political stability. Power or stability? That's what I want to know. So she's going on to say how important it is for them to go ahead and pass the budget. It's very pivotal. They need this to get things rocking and rolling. You can see her say right here, the adoption of the budget would support the provisions of appropriate public services, organization of provincial council elections. She went on to say the Iraqi government has taken clear positions against corruption. How clear is it? Because I don't know about you guys, I'm one of those people that kind of keep things in the back of my head. As the news cycle changes so quick, people tend to forget about things. Like, why the hell haven't we heard anything about that recording of Maliki threatening the life of Sadr? That's a serious offense. All of a sudden, magically, like a fart in the wind, poof, nobody's talking about that no more. I haven't forgotten, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Obviously, like here in the United States, there are those who can break the law all they want, and nothing's going to happen to them. So if the current government is making reforms against corruption, then why the hell is Maliki still walking around? That's what I want to know. So yeah, something happened over there. I know there's so many rumors about this. People are talking about they're going into the central bank digital currency. This is happening, that is happening. But what we do know is that people were using these cards and they would have a large dollar amount on there. So they just found another way to be sneaky and to get this money over to countries who are trying to avoid sanctions. That's what we heard recently, but now this, my guess is that they're starting to figure out a pattern that they can identify that lets them know when a card is being smuggled over to another country for the sole purpose of circumventing the sanctions. That's just a guess. It's just my opinion, but we know that's what's going on. Instead of them paying some outrageous invoice, although they're still doing that from time to time, what we're finding out is that people are loading up these cards with tons of money, US dollars. They take them to places like Turkey and Iran and give these people the cards with the US dollars on there, and they use them. So I'm pretty sure that's what the real reason is. But all they're seeing in here is that they stopped all of them, including one that I think is interesting. I don't know if you guys paid attention to this, but it says right here, down here on the bottom, he said, explain, the MasterCard and SOG were stopped, including Palm cards. Is there a card called Palm, or are they trying to say that people are using their Palm as a card? That caught my attention. I wish I were a little bit more clear about that, because there are stores now here in the United States. It starts on the West Coast. How you're identified is by your fingerprints or by your handprints or your palm prints. So you go in there and there's a thing linked to your bank card and you make your purchases. There's no cashier. There's no nothing like that. So I'm wondering if that is what's going on over there in Iraq. And of course, the latest and the greatest on the budget is this. Finance Committee, we have reached the final stages of resolving the general budget law. So they're at the final stages. We'll see what happens. We know we got voting coming up here. I'm curious, like so many other people, are they going to change the exchange rate? I don't think so, but there is a good chance they could do that. I still want to get people's hope up by lying about, oh, my insiders telling me this is what they're going to do. Oh, my Dakota wearing special handshake intel person who pulls a wand out of his ass and sprinkles unicorn pixie dust all over everything told me that the people at the redemption centers are standing by and there's numbers on the back screens and they're getting the 800 numbers ready. Seriously, it's such crap. All right, let's get into this whole argument about fixed rates, pegged rates, everything else, all right? For the record, you can see on this little map, here is Iraq. That's important for what we're about to do. So let's talk about exchange rate systems, all right? There's all kinds of arguments, and I told you that Iraq is a fixed or a pegged currency. It's not a float. It's not a dirty float. It's not floating at all. It's fixed. It's 1,320 dinars for every $1 US. They're pegged to the US dollar. Okay, I don't know who's claiming that they're floating. I don't care. I've heard this for the longest time. It's not floating in country. It's not floating out of country. There's no true exchange rates. It's all bullshit. Okay, so let's go through what these are. A floating exchange rate or fluctuating exchange rate is a type of exchange rate regime wherein a country's value is allowed to freely fluctuate according to the foreign exchange market. Where there's a problem, they're not on the Forex. Although they say all the time on the Iraqi exchange rate, that's not the Forex. The Forex is the official, and Iraq is not allowed to play with the big boys, not yet. So on the foreign exchange market, Iraq is not on there and does not participate. Therefore, it's impossible for them to be a floating exchange rate or a fluctuating exchange rate until the Forex recognizes Iraqi dinar all over again. They're not going to be a floating exchange rate. For those you don't know, this is the Forex.com. Over here, you can see they keep track of all the different types of currencies that are out there. This is the euros to dollars. Like how many euros does it take to get a dollar or vice versa? You can see all of that here. That's what these markets are. Why? Because people invest in them. If you go to IQD, you can see there's no results. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, when I say to IQD, that is the official Forex label for the Iraqi dinar. If you don't trust IQD, let's try this. Zero, zouch, zip. That's because they're not on the Forex. So you can't have a floating exchange rate or a fluctuating exchange rate because that deals with the currency market. And since IQD or the Iraqi dinar is not on the foreign exchange market, it can't be a floating exchange rate. A fixed exchange rate system, also known as a pegged exchange rate system, is a currency system in which governments try to maintain their currency value consistent against a specific currency or good, mainly the US dollar. The Iraqi dinar is pegged to the US dollar, so it's fixed. So when you see them put in their articles, this is the value today versus what the fixed rate is, all they're showing you is the difference between the parallel markets and what the fixed is. We know that the fixed is what? 1,320 dinars. If you go to the bank in Iraq and you say, hey, I want to buy some Iraqi dinars, then the exchange is going to be US dollars for Iraqi dinar at the rate of 1,320 dinars for every $1. That's what it is. That's because it's a fixed rate. So there's no floating rate out there. It's pegged against the US dollar. Now you have what's called a dirty float. A dirty float is when the government allows their currency to actually float on the Forex system, but if it starts to get out of whack, like it's too weak or too powerful, well, then the government intervenes and resets the rate. In other words, they turn it into a fixed rate for a little bit until things start to calm down and there's some stability there, then they'll let it float again. It will freely fluctuate, but if it gets out of whack, the government interferes. That's a dirty float. Now they have this hybrid thing. It's called pegged floating currencies are pegged to some band or value, either fixed or periodically adjusted. These are a hybrid or fixed or floating regime, but they are fixed to what? The US dollar. So they can not be a floating exchange rate or a fluctuating exchange rate. And why is that, class? I know. Go ahead, say it. Because they're not on the Forex. Yep, because they're not on the Forex market. And just because you see articles say that the Iraqi exchange rate says that this is the value, all that is the parallel. The black market is basically what they're saying is the value that you see when they talk about the Iraqi stock exchange. It is not a floating exchange or a fluctuating exchange rate because it's not on the Forex. Does that help? I hope so. Just real quick again. Floating exchange rate, a system where the value of currency in relations to others is allowed to freely fluctuate subject to market forces. Has to be on the Forex. A fixed exchange rate, a system where a currency's value is tied to the value of another single currency, the US dollar, or the euro usually, to a basket of other currencies, not yet, although I would love to see Iraq do the same thing as the other Arab nations. Now, Iraq is part of a 22 or 23 nation group called the Arab Monetary Fund, but they use their own separate dinar to do business with one another, and that one is fixed against a basket of currency. That's how they determine their rate. I would love to see the Iraqi dinar get pegged to that sucker because it would be 3 times or 4 times the SDR rate, which would put it way up there in the high $3. But that's not happening. Not yet anyways. Who knows? I'd love to see a change. Or to another measure of value such as gold. That's always a possibility. We see what the Iraqi people are doing. They're increasing their foreign asset reserves as well as their gold reserves because they can turn around and then peg it to those things instead of the US dollar. If the US dollar starts to crash, you can see them make a move to peg it to their, their foreign currency reserves as well as the gold. As we know, China and Russia and all them want to change that. They want it to be pegged to a basket of currencies, and it looks like Iraq might go that route. Who knows? One of the key economic decisions a nation must make is how it will value its currency in comparison to other countries. An exchange rate regime is how a nation manages its currency in the foreign exchange market. An exchange rate regime is closely related to the country's monetary policy. There are three basic types of exchange regimes: the floating, which we talked about, the fixed, which we talked about, and the pegged, which is the new hybrid one. If you come down here, what color is Iraq? Iraq is blue. The above map shows which countries have adopted which exchange rate regime. Dark green is for floating, free float. Dark green, see, we are free float, they're free. What color is Iraq? Does that look free float to you? No, this is not green. It's not green at all. It's one half of two colors you mix together to make green, but it's not green, okay? Neon green is for managed float, so it's not even a managed float or dirty float. Blue, which Iraq is, blue is for currency peg. Or red is for countries that use another country's currency. So they do have their own currency, but it's a dual currency, so that's why they're not red. But blue is for currency peg. What did Pimpy say? It's pegged to the US dollar. Therefore, it's a fixed rate, not a fluctuating rate. I hope that helps. I know you hear all the bullshit out there, but see, that's why it's really important that you do your own research and learn these things. I don't mind showing you. Just make sure you keep that in mind. And you hear the people out there blowing smoke up your ass talking about how they're Dakota wearing secret handshake intel person who works in the military or works in the Central Bank of Iraq and pulls a magic wand out of his butt and sprinkles unicorn pixie dust on you. No, stop listening to them. These people have been lying for 10, 15 years, man. Numbers on the back screen, the 800 numbers. You know, we're told that the people are standing by. We don't hear this very much, but you used to say, and I will hear it from time to time, they used to say, what is the other crap these a lot of people? You better hurry up and get your LLC because you're going to have a humanitarian project. No, you don't. No, you don't at all. That's a lie. And just so you guys know, let's clear this up as well since we're already dusting off all the crap. An RI is a reinstatement. People always intermingle that with the RV. An RI would be reinstating the rate in which a currency once was. In Kuwait, they had an exchange rate. They were invaded. They dropped the value way down. But after Iraq was removed out of Kuwait and Kuwait was back on its feet, didn't take very long at all, then they reinstated the rate where it was before the pre-invasion. Now, as far as Iraq is concerned, way different because what happened in Kuwait was a short period of time. Not to mention that Iraq is still under restrictions. Are they going to have a reinstatement? I don't think so. That's my opinion. But, you know, again, could it happen? Of course, anything is possible, but I doubt it. I think it's going to happen, like I said, you're going to see an RV, which is a revalue, which it could be, the RV could be that the currency lost value or the currency has gained value. So people go, man, it's never going to RV. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's RV like 2 times in the last 6 months. And when it went down in value from 1,190 dinars to 1,450 dinars, and now the value of the dinar increased and it moved up to 1,320 dinars for every dollar. That's where it sits right now. It is a fixed exchange rate. It is fixed to the US dollar. I hope that helps you guys. Let me know what you think. I will get at you later. I am out.